Almost everybody has heard an absurd time travel story at some point in their life. The sci-fi part of time travel is still debatable compared to the concept of time dilation, as indicated by a TED-Ed video by Colin Stuart, in which Russian cosmonaut Sergei Krikalev voyaged 0.02 seconds into his own future because of time dilation during the time he spent on the International Space Station. For the inquisitive, Krikalev has spent a sum of 803 days, 9 hours, and 39 minutes in space throughout his profession. Some might argue that time dilation isn't the main sort of time travel that is conceivable. Some people believe that time travel as shown in movies like Back to the Future is possible, as there are some stories present on the internet. But it is hard to conclude if they are genuine, as not much evidence is present. Do you believe in time travel? We'll let you decide for yourself after watching this video, as the list contains the 10 most convincing real-life time travel stories that will surely get you thinking. Number 1. The Moberly Jourdain Incident. In 1901, two English women, Anne Moberly and Eleanor Jourdain, went to France for vacation. And as one does in France, they visited the Palace of Versailles. In Versailles, they also visited the Petit Trianon, a little estate which was provided to the teenage queen Marie Antoinette by Louis XVI to unwind back in the day. However, while they were there, they claimed to have witnessed some odd events. They saw people wearing anachronistic clothing, heard strange voices, and saw structures and different designs that for sure haven't existed since the late 1700s. They also mentioned seeing Marie Antoinette herself. They professed to have fallen into a period slip and been momentarily shipped back over 100 years before being shaken back to the present day by a tour guide. Did they truly travel back in time? Probably not, as there can be certain explanations for this, like a joint delusion or maybe a misinterpretation of what they saw. But whatever it was, it made for an interesting story, and the two women published a book about the whole thing. Number 2. John Titter. John Titter claims to have experienced time travel and has come from the future. He told his story of how he was sent back to 1975 to bring an IBM 5100 PC back to his own timeline, and stopped in the year 2000 for a moment on his way returning home to 2036. Feelings are mixed on whether John Titter was actually telling the truth. A few people think he did travel from the future and his story is genuine, while others believe that this was all just a hoax. We'll leave it up to you to decide on which side you fall. Do you believe it? Number 3. Victor Goddard flight. Similar to the Moberly Jourdain incident, Royal Air Force Commander Sir Robert Victor Goddard claimed to have encountered a time slip. In 1935, Goddard flew over what had been the RAF station Drem in Scotland in transit from Edinburgh to Andover, England. The Drem station at this point was not being used. To be sure, Goddard said he saw a generally deserted runway as he flew over it the first time, and on his return trip, things got abnormal. Though he took the same route back, he got waylaid by a tempest. As he attempted to recapture control, he saw the Drem runway and drew nearer to it. The terrible climate unexpectedly dispersed. However, the landing strip wasn't deserted at this time. It was occupied with a few planes on the runway and mechanics hastening about. In no time, the tempest returned. After struggling to keep his plane overhead, Goddard made it home just fine and dandy. He wrote a book called Flight Towards Reality, which included the discussion of the entire thing. Here is the truly unusual piece. In 1939, the Drem landing strip was restored, leaving people to wonder if Goddard saw the future, or did he travel forward through time? No one knows. Number 4. The Hipster Time Traveler. A photo portraying the 1941 reopening of the South Fork Bridge in Goldbridge, British Columbia in Canada circulated on the web for apparently portraying a man that had looked a little too modern for the year 1941. He looked like a time-traveling hipster with a graphic t-shirt and sunglasses. This left people wondering how this was even possible. People have a lot of explanations for the man's appearance, the main one being that everything he was wearing could be procured in 1941. In any case, it was never definitively exposed, so the possibility that this could be a man from our time who adventured back to 1941 continues. Number 5. Hutton and Brant. News offices would kill for a story 11 years ahead of its time. This spine-chilling story took place in 1932 when newspaper reporter J. Bernard Hutton, along with photographer Joachim Brant, did a piece on the Hamburg shipyard in Germany. As they were leaving the premises, they heard airplane motors and saw the sky filled with military aircraft. The airplanes started shooting and the spot turned into a disaster area. Things were detonating and structures were imploding. The two hurried out to save their own lives. As the two crashed into Hamburg, things changed. The skies cleared up and everything returned to normal. There was no blood and structures were just fine. Hutton and Brant looked back towards the shipyard and couldn't spot any of the damage they had just witnessed. Shocking, right? The newspapers didn't believe their story either, as they didn't have any evidence of it happening. Their colleagues even dismissed their story and said they must have been drunk. Number 6. Tall-Red Man. This story is the strongest out of all with the most unanswered questions. The story starts with the appearance of a man at the Haneda airport in July 1954. The man is known to have been French, however, he was quite conversant in different dialects too, including Japanese. When stopped by the Japanese migration authorities, his visa appeared to be completely fine. The nation it belonged to was Taured, which didn't exist. He made an honest effort to persuade the officials into believing that Taured did exist. He claimed that his neighborhood had existed for over 100 years, and even highlighted the area presently known as the country of Andorra. He was captured on doubts of being a crook. To further investigate him, he was placed into a nearby lodge with 2 watchmen outside of his room. Yet, think about what happened when they went to check on him the following day. The man had disappeared. Yes, just gone. His documents vanished as if he never even existed. Could he be a man from the future? Or is all of this just great storytelling? Unfortunately, there's no way to tell. Number 7. Wall Street Scam Artist. On the 28th of January 2003, a man named Andrew Carlson was captured by the police for insider trading at Wall Street. This story is crazy, as in just over 14 days, Andrew went from having only $800 to $350 million. It appeared as if whatever he touched turned into gold, making it almost difficult for many to believe. He was arrested as there was no way it was possible to make so much money in such a short time span. The police assumed he had unlawful insider information about the market. However, when inquired as to why and how he did it, the cops were left in utter shock by his answer. Andrew claimed to be from the year 2256. As he was from the future, he was aware of which stock would be profitable to invest. Well, no one believed him, but he was soon released on bail. After being released, he vanished and was never found. Was Carlson telling the truth? We'll never know, but he sure predicted the exact date of the U.S. invasion of Iraq. Number 8. The Man Who Met Himself. On the 30th of August 2006, 36-year-old Hakan Nordqvist returned home to discover his kitchen overflowing with water. Believing it was just a leak, he crawled under the sink to fix it. But as he crawled inside the cabinet, it just continued. So he kept crawling and stopped at the very end of this strange tunnel. When he got out, he realized he was in the year 2042. Furthermore, what makes this story even more strange is that he even met himself as a 72-year-old man. The future version of him wasn't surprised to see him, in fact, and told him things that only he could have known. They had the same tattoo, and even took a selfie together. This sounds a little bit more like an acid trip, but who are we to judge? Number 9. Vanishing 1940 Car. As shared in a 1988 magazine article, this story follows 2 men who, while driving on an early evening in Louisiana, 1969, saw a vehicle from the past. While driving on an interstate, they saw an older vehicle, which was moving slowly as they drew closer. They saw the numbered license plate said the year 1940, and inside there was an old lady in 40s clothing with a kid who looked frightened. They signaled her to stop to see if she needed any help, and the 2 were dumbfounded to see that the vehicle had disappeared. Another driver was also a witness to this event. Could she be someone traveling from the past, or was she stuck here and could never go back? Well, whatever the truth, no one can ever tell. Number 10. The Year 5000 Photo. What sort of proof would we acknowledge from a real person who goes back and forth through time? In 2018, a man named Edward professed to have made a trip to the year 5000 and get back with a visual evidence of a photograph. Edward declared that in 2004 he was chosen for some secret project which sent him into the future. The photo he brought as evidence was of a submerged city which he said was Los Angeles 3,000 years in the future. He said that by that time global warming would have flooded the entire world and humanity will get on by surviving with floating cities, like the one from which he snapped the picture. We don't know if this is true or not, but are we ready for the future if it's like Waterworld with floating cities?